My people, my people, my people. Welcome back to Techno Churchy, where we speak about the church and, of course, tech. As you can see today, we have an amazing array of hardware here that we will touch on. Of course, not in too much details because we'll be having subsequent talks about each and every one of these hardware. But just to give you a summary and an overview of what an audiovisual technician who works in a church needs to learn and to know how to operate. All right? But first of all, allow me to appreciate you for turning up. All right? Turning up and subscribing and liking the content and even dropping some good comments. Some people have been giving me ideas. Have been telling me improve on this, improve on that, improve on the flow of your information. Some people have been telling me this is good content, we are learning, and I really appreciate the feedback. If you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe. I'm on road to 100 subscribers. Someday I'll be on road to 100,000 subscribers. But for now, I'm just on road to 100 subscribers. If you subscribe, I think by now I should be about 30 or so subscribers away from 100. So hit the subscribe button and like the content, drop a comment, and you will be blessed, as we say, because you came. The first category to start us off is power supply hardware. As we had spoken about when we were handling, I think it was the 7 skills, we deeply emphasized on why it is important for you to understand how power operates and how power equipment operates. All right? So with me here, I have a few equipment. The ones that I don't have here, which I'll do a review on in later videos, is the generator and the stabilizer, power stabilizers, which do come handy when you have a PLC or the normal power supply or the how do you call it, the normal AC power that comes from the power generating company is not working, and you need power to run your equipment, power to run your events. Of course, the generators, the UPSs, they really come in handy. All right. With generators, I'll just touch briefly on generators. You need to understand the ratings of a generator, which most generators are rated in watts, because that's the amount of power, the amount of power they output. Some range from around 2,000 kilowatts or 2,000 watts rather, to as much as 20 kVs and above. Those ones are for bigger generators. The other thing about generators, you also need to understand if they are 3-phase generators or just the normal small generators, so that you don't end up buying a 3-phase generator, a big generator, permanently installed generator where you just needed like a small generator to operate your equipment. Okay, you also need to know what kind of fuel they use, so that you don't use diesel in a petrol generator. Let me put it simply as that. Okay. And the next power hardware we need also to talk about is the UPS. Especially when you're running a digital system, it is very, very, very key to have a UPS. UPS simply stands for uninterruptible power supply. It simply means it gives you, when your power goes off, there's a cut, there's an interruption of your power supply, it gives you a bit of time to finish what you're doing or to save what you needed to save before your power shuts down completely. Depending on the size of the UPS, you can have from half an hour to 8 hours of power supply, or even very bigger UPSs can run you for even more than 8 hours. Okay, so UPSs are very important. Also, UPS, the reason why you need to know how to operate a UPS, some UPS come so that you don't, first of all, so that you don't overload your UPS. Like this one is rated 700. That means it's 700 volts, not volts, but amps. Yeah. That's the amount of power you get with it, or rather from it. So this one, when you are dividing your, when you are checking the rating of your equipment, you know that it can load up to 4 small equipment. That may be a computer, a small mixer, a monitor, and maybe something like a keyboard. Yeah. The other thing you need to know how it operates is an inverter. There are some generators that come. Some generators operate like inverters. They have what I would call an inbuilt inverter, but some may not have that kind of. So when you get a generator that does not have an inverter, or you need to just convert your normal AC to DC, that's when you need an inverter. I'll speak about inverters later on, like this one, the one that I have here. It's rated 600 watts, a maximum of 1200 watts. That it's a power inverter, fully automatic inverter, converts. That's what they are written here. We'll speak about that in depth when now we'll be handling power in more details. Okay. You also need to understand how your power distribution board, maybe outside or inside the building works. You need to understand the ratings of different circuit breakers. You need to understand how to use, we call them transfer switches, or there's another word I'm forgetting, changeovers. Yes, where now you need to understand how to operate the changeovers, whether it's an automated changeover or just a manual changeover for your power system. When power goes off and your generator needs to come up, okay? Yeah, changeovers are important and are necessary because they simply switch, cut out the one line. Like for example, if you have the normal power supply from power generating company, and you also have a generator, okay, what you need to, before you install a generator, you need to get the changeover switch. The purpose of the changeover switch is simply to cut out one supply, so that you don't have two supplies at the same time coming in, which might overload your system. Okay, and not that just that. If you're running a generator at your premise, and let's say for example you've been having interruption on the other side of the power supply from the power supply company, when you power on your generator without cutting out the supply on the other side, you might end up supplying electricity back to the power poles. You get, meaning you are putting whoever is doing repairs, if there was a power cut somewhere, maybe a cable cut on the distribution lines, you are putting whoever is doing repairs on those lines at risk. So that is why the changeover switches are important. Okay, we'll get the changeover switches. One day we might get to see a changeover switch and how it works. The second category of hardware I would like to speak about is the audio hardware. As we know that audio is like, should I call it the backbone of media? Because without audio, without proper audio, even if your video or your premise, even your hall looks beautiful, and your audio is bad, is pathetic, my friend, people will tell you, hey, the service today or the event today was not good, the sound was not good. Even if they are watching, people would rather watch a noisy video with good audio than a high quality video with poor audio. Okay, so audio is very important. So in the audio system, the flow is broken down in at least 4 stages. There's the input, there's the mixing, there's the input, the mixing, the amplification, which is the amplifier, and then the output. That's a simple flow of audio. There's input, which could be a microphone. There's mixing, which you do on a mixing board. Then there's the amplification, which you do on an amplifier. And then the what? The output, which definitely now is the speaker. An audio system can have different inputs. For example, a keyboard, a piano, a guitar, or a computer, laptop, or a microphone, okay? And for each of these ones, you really need to know how each one is different from the other. For example, even with mics, as you can see, I have different types of mics here. I have a cordless mic. I have some few corded mics, which we will speak about when now we'll be speaking about different types of mics in future videos, okay? With me here, I have a condenser mic. This is an example of a condenser mic. I also have a dynamic mic here with me, an SM58. If you know, you know what an SM58 is, among other things. Okay, so in the future videos, what I'm trying to do right now is just to lay a foundation, but in the future videos, we'll delve into each and every part of audio-visual technology in depth. Okay, the next stage is the mixing. Different mixers come different abilities. There are mixers that we call powered mixers, and then we have just the normal mixers which do not have. Powered mixers simply have amplifiers, inbuilt amplifiers in them. These are used for small events. For big events, you can't have a. It is almost impossible to have a big mixer with an amplifier inbuilt in it. Okay, like the mixer that I have here. I don't know if you are able to see, but let me turn this so you are able to see. This is an Allen & Heath. It's an old mixer, fairly old mixer. You see the brand name here. It's PA20. I think it's labeled PA20 because they say it has 20 channels. That's why it is labeled PA20. It has a few effects, different reverbs and effects. The reverbs, and then there are delays and also phaser and other things among them. All right. A mixer operates very basically. There is the input section, there's the manipulation section, and what you can call the output section, which covers faders and also the auxiliary channels and also the faders for the outputs. Okay, you need to understand how your mixer operates and at what level are you able to manipulate your audio. Okay, the EQ section, which as I had mentioned earlier, you can also refer to it as a manipulation section, where you manipulate your audio to a desirable feel that you feel is good, but it comes with a few frequency EQ knobs. You can do the high frequencies, the high mids, the low mids, and the low frequency. Some mixers simply have the high frequency, the mids, and the low frequencies, depending on the mixer. Okay, the output section is generally used for maybe you want to send audio to, or rather the auxiliary. I meant the auxiliary section. You want to send audio to some other parts of the premise besides your normal hall. Okay, maybe you have an overflow somewhere, a crèche somewhere, a room somewhere where people want to get audio. That's what you can use for doing that. We will one day handle these things in depth. Okay, all right, and then now after that we have the amplification. Mixers that don't come with inbuilt amplifiers, it simply means you need to get a separate amplifier for your system. Okay, what an amplifier simply does is to take the output signal from the mixer, because when for example, a microphone will convert a acoustic sound, which is the vocal sound, into an electrical current. So it is that electrical current that comes here and gets manipulated, and then it is outputted. When it is outputted, it is too weak. It is too weak to be for it to go to a speaker. It needs a bit of boost, and that is what an amplifier does. An amplifier simply takes what we call a pre-amplified audio signal from the mixer and makes it bigger. Simply, that is the work of an amplifier. And the opposite of amplification is attenuation, where now you bring down the amount of signal volume or strength. Okay, different amplifiers come with different ratings. There are different types of amplifiers, but I'll just speak in general about ratings so that you know how to handle the ratings. So it is very key for you to know the rating for your amplifier, because it is that rating that you'll use to match with your speakers. We will also talk about that someday. Okay. So like this one is rated output power per channel. It is clearly written here. This is like an old QSC amplifier. It's written here, output power per channel, 650 watts and 4 ohms. Let's say, for example, you have 4 speakers. Each is rated as an example to 50 watts. Okay, it means this each channel can handle two speakers each. Yeah, just an example, because 250 plus 250 is 500, and this one is rated as 650 per channel. So meaning total number of wattage that you get from this amplifier is about 1300, I think. So 1300 divided by 4 speakers, you still even have a headroom to add a speaker or so. Okay, that's just in general. And so now the last part of signal flow. There are other parts of audios that I have not spoken about, but this is just a simplified, at a basic level. You need to have these. The speaker stands at the very end of audio systems. This is a small speaker. It's a small Maya speaker. When you're dealing with speakers, you need to understand whether it's a passive or an active speaker. When you're speaking about speakers, when we say passive, it simply means that the speaker does not have an inbuilt amplifier inside. But when we say active, it has an inbuilt amplifier inside. So you don't need, for a powered speaker, you don't need to get a separate amplifier for it. So it means you simply get your audio from your mixer directly to your speaker, and it doesn't have to pass through the amplifier. Other parts of the audio system that I've not spoken about include the graphic EQs, the compressors, the limiters. There are separate hardwares for these things as well. Okay, so if you need to EQ, to do a graphic EQ for your outputs, and also maybe you need to do limiting for your limiting or compression for your inputs, you need to, for an analog system especially, you need to get separate hardware. For a digital system, some of the digital systems come with inbuilt with these extra things built in. Someday we will handle digital mixing, but at a basic level you need to understand these 4 parts, which is the input, the mixing, the amplification, and the output. In this category, I'll speak about live video mixing and the hardware required to do the live mixing. Okay, for example, you have screens at your premise, whether they're in your hall or they're in other rooms where pastors sit or guests sit, or an overflow. You have an overflow somewhere, or you are having two like another room where maybe the Holy Communion team are working, but they need to follow the service. it becomes necessary for you to understand how your live video mixing operates. Okay, even for live stream, even for live stream, you need to do live video mixing for live stream for people that are watching from online. Okay, so with me here, I have a few components, or rather a few hardware that help build, but what I have is not complete. There are a few other parts that I will speak about that are not here. These are the ones that I was able to grab for this video. Okay. In a nutshell, just like audio mixing, we have the inputs, we have the mixing, we have the amplification, and we have the output. So in live video mixing, we have the inputs, we have the mixing, and then we have the manipulation, which happens at a certain stage. Manipulation, changing of sizes, formats, maybe doing a little bit of color grading here, and then there's the output. Okay. So sometimes for your video, your inputs could be a camera, or I'll speak about cameras in the next category. But for this category, you might have your laptop or your camera coming in. All the sources come into your video mixer. I have an ATEM Mini Pro here, which acts as both a video mixer and an encoder for streaming. So when it comes, you see like this has 4 inputs. Say for example, you have 2 cameras and maybe 2 laptops. So all these come in here, and then it is you to choose which signal you want to be seen at what particular part. Okay, it makes your live mixing easier because it has 4 inputs, meaning you can put up to 4 cameras or up to 4 computers. Even for your projection, it becomes easier. You don't have to keep, for example, you can use one laptop for mixing, for projecting lyrics, and the other laptop for projecting scripture, and so that makes it easier for you, because now instead of you keeping on changing tabs or changing windows in your computer, or you simply at the switch of a button, you are able to show what you want to show. It eases and makes the work slightly faster. There are bigger video mixers. Some of the leading brands are from Blackmagic, Roland. I think TriCaster have some good stuff as well. Yeah, so those are some of the leading brands that you can check out, and even Blackmagic has this smaller one, which is also an encoder, and a small mixer. You can have up to 2 inputs at a go for this. All right, this is simply called a Blackmagic Web Presenter. Okay, just a web presenter. It allows you 2 inputs at most. It has a place for audio. The beauty with this is that it gives you balanced audio. You can use your XLRs here, and you can even use the normal audio here. Okay. The other beautiful thing with this is that it has SDI input, meaning you get more distance. I'll speak about cables in some other day. Why you need to use a certain cable at a certain place compared to another cable. Yeah, with SDI you get a longer distance compared to, let's say, HDMI. Okay. All right. The other parts of live video mixing that I've not spoken about are your screens. You can use the normal LED screens that people use in their homes. You can use daylight screens. But just know that the bigger the screen, the more components it needs to come with. Okay. You will need video processors and video scalers at some point. just to enhance and to make sure that even your dimensions are correct and your colors are correct, your brightness is correct to the screens and things like that. The other category of hardware that I think is very necessary for especially a church audiovisual technician to understand are the cameras. But before we speak about cameras, please, if you've not subscribed to this channel, let me remind you please to subscribe. I'm on road to 100 subscribers. I'm hoping that this video is able to push me to that. I think I need that around 30 more subscribers by now. So bless me with that. Just hit on that subscribe button and also tell me what you think about the other things that I've said. Drop a comment and don't forget to share this content with your teams, okay? I have a camera here. This is a Canon 70D. We've had it and we've been using it fairly for some time, for a while now. I think 2 or 3 years now, and it's been serving us fairly well. As an audiovisual technician, it is very important to understand camera as a hardware. So that you also need to know what a camera does and what type of camera to use at what point, okay? For example, you need to understand how your camera reacts to low light, how your camera reacts to overexposure. Like, for example, you're having an outdoor shoot and there's too much light from maybe the sun or so. Does your camera have things like ND filters? Like this one is a photography camera, so it does not have ND filters. But the one we are using is a cinema camera that has an ND. You get the difference, an ND filter. And then there are cameras that are used for things like documentary, and you can also use them for events like weddings, okay? So that you don't end up buying something or that you might not need. Also, as part of the camera, you need to understand how lenses, different kind of lenses work, and different kind of lenses are used for different situations, okay? When we'll be doing reviews on cameras as hardware, as separate hardware, we'll delve into even the lenses and so you understand such. Okay, for cameras, it's not just about switching them on, pointing and shooting. No. You need to understand what different settings do, what amount of ISO does, what amount of f-stop does, what amount of shutter speed does, what you need, what you can, what kind of settings you need to put for what kind of situation. Okay. For example, if I'm shooting in a dark room, I can't do low ISO. I need to crank up my ISO. If I'm shooting in a poorly lit environment, I need a camera that works well with low light. All right. When I'm doing outdoor, maybe I'm shooting in the sun, I need a camera that can work with, that has an ND filter. Or do I need to? The other reason is also, do I need to get extra hardware like filters, like reflectors to enhance the ability of my camera? Okay, other camera hardware. We'll speak about lighting a bit later, but also lighting is very important to camera, and that you also need to understand. Okay. With the church going online nowadays, it is very important for a technician to understand the network system, and with that comes the network hardware. With me here, I have an access point, a TP-Link access point that is rated at 150 Mbps wireless. It is purely for Wi-Fi. In the sense, what I mean is that it does not have other outputs for LAN. You get some access points enable you to have other points where you can even plug in your computer using a cable. but this one does not give you that option. So those are some of the things you need to know. You need also to know the speed at which your access point operates, things like that. Other hardware that you need to understand are the things like switches, so that you understand how the connection is done from your internet service provider to your access point, where now you are able to access the Wi-Fi. Okay, there's nothing much it might not have a lot of hardware, but it affects a lot. Even the office phones nowadays use internet, so it is very important for you to understand how network hardwares operate and how different switches operate. And does your switch have what we call energy saver, so that even when now we in digital mixing, actually when you're now mixing your audio, there are few networking hardware that you need to understand, like when we are doing IP configuration, let me call it IP configuration, and now we are doing for our digital mixer, when we are doing should I call it routing, where now we plug in the access point to the mixer, and now we are able to access we create a Wi-Fi, or we create a network where now our computer is able to connect to the mixer. It becomes easier, meaning we can even move around the room but still be able to do mixing from the computer directly to the mixer. You also need to understand, when now you go at a higher level, mixing at a higher level, where now you are using either things like Dante or MADI, you need to understand that networking plays a key role in that level of mixing. So it is very important for you, especially now when you are now moving from an analog system to a digital system. As a technician, it is very important to understand networking, okay? So that you can, at a high level, you can do separate mixes from separate positions. For example, if I'm doing Dante, I can be able to do a separate mix for my from the mixer, a separate mix on a computer for streaming, a separate mix on another computer for maybe a different room somewhere. Okay, all right. So those are some of the things you need to understand. Okay. In this category, we'll speak about cables. For cables, I'll categorize cables into 4: the power cables, the audio cables, the video cables, and the network cables. All right. To start us off with the power cables, what you need to understand is the different types of cables. Like in my hands here, I have this is a 2.0 size cable, a flexible cable, twin with earth. What that simply means is that in terms of diameter, the 2.0 is for diameter, the size of the cable. You need to know the size of the cable because it is important for you to know where to apply it. For example, the 2.0 and 2.5 cables are mostly used for sockets, powering sockets. The 1.5 are used for lighting mostly and other smaller appliances. The bigger ones like the 4.0 and the 6.0 are used for heaters and cookers, and then as you go on, other cables are used for supplying power to the premise and distribution, the larger cables. The reason why it's called twin with earth is because it has a neutral, live, and earth. So it is simply coded like that. Blue for neutral, red for live, and yellow-green for earth. So we'll speak more about them when we're speaking about power, so that you understand that better. There are other ones that you use for tapping power from your source, from your socket to your equipment. Like this one is mostly used for 240, and it's also rated to 40. Even the fuse, you also need to check the fuse. The fuse for this one is rated to 10 amps, which is fairly okay for things that use for most of the house appliances and electronics. Need to, this one can work. Okay, the next category is the audio cables. Here we have an XLR cable for balanced signals. We'll speak about what balanced signals are. This one is used for mostly for balanced signals, XLRs. Then we have the jack cables. The jack cables mostly used for instruments. From the instruments, maybe to a DI box or to a mixer direct for not very long distances. Yeah, XLR cables are more effective for long distances because they have balanced signals, which means the ability to, or your signal to be noisy is highly reduced. Okay, we'll speak about balanced signal when we're speaking about audio in depth. Okay, here we have a simple XLR to jack, to small jack, which is a conversion. As an example, maybe you want a jack input to a XLR output. You can use this for that purpose. Okay, all right. In audio signal, we also have conversion. When you want to convert your unbalanced signal from the jack to balanced signal to the XLR, you simply need something called a DI box. So a DI box is simply what turns a balanced signal, an unbalanced signal, to a balanced signal. So if you're getting a signal from maybe a keyboard that is unbalanced, and you want to make it balanced for long distance, you use a DI box. Okay, all right. The next category is the video cables. For video cables, we have different types of cables. We have the VGA cables, or rather not VGAs, but USB cables. We have this one is a converter. We have the HDMI cables, we have the SDI cables, and also we have the display port cables, which are also part of those cables. Okay, for conversion or converters, we have a few. Like this one is a display port to VGA. This one is an HDMI to VGA. This one is an SDI in to VGA, and then these ones are called extenders. They work. You can't work with one without the other. One works as a transmitter, the other one works as the receiver. Sorry, this is the transmitter and this is the receiver. So, for example, you want to. This one is an extender for Cat5 to HDMI. You simply put your Cat5, you plug in your Cat5, and then you plug the other end of the Cat5 on this side. All right. Then you get your HDMI cables. You plug one on this side. So, for example, your camera gives out an HDMI signal, but you know with HDMI we can't send over very long distances. So the best way to do it is to use an extender which uses Cat5 or Cat6. So when you do that extension, you are able to run you send your signal further than what HDMI would have done. Okay, so that's it for the video cables. For the network cables, most of the network cables, there are other network cables, but the most common one that is used in churches and in other places is the Cat5 cable. Okay, this is what runs from your switch to, you remember when we were displaying the access point, this is what you can also use from your access point to your computer. Okay, there are other ones like The fiber cables. I'm trying to remember the other one that the Cat 6, Cat 7 also we have, which we'll talk in depth when now we're handling networking, among other things. Okay. I'm here with a few lighting hardware. The basic way of understanding lighting is that there's power, there's switch, and then there's the lighting fixture, which is your bulb or your tube or your twinklers, like these small twinklers and such. Okay, but for professional lighting, when now you need to light for an event, I'll one day get a professional lighting technician so that he can explain to us in depth of how some of these things need to work. But at a basic level, you need to understand how your lighting system works. Okay, you have the light. For example, we have this big light, this Chauvet light, and we have a Chauvet mixer. It's a bit analog, but it gets the job. It gets the job done. So when your signal comes, for example, you have an audio signal system. It gets in here. You manipulate that audio signal. Then you send it out to the lights using the mixer. The mixer also enables you to select different colors, mix colors, and what have you, different lighting temperatures. The mixer also enables you to manipulate the speed of how the lights change colors. Okay, even the rate at which they fade in, the transitions fade and fade out. So that's basically the work of the mixer. Just like the audio mixer, where you are able to mix different audio channels. With this, you are able to mix different colors to send through to the lighting source now, which is the light itself. All right. Other lights that we have that you can take advantage of are the smaller lights. Like this is a normal UV light, which we use for decoration. Mostly they are used for money detecting if your money is fake. But not in church. In church, we can use them for enhancing the look in our studio, because they react differently with luminous and white surfaces. We also have these LED tubes, which have been very handy for me personally. I've really made use of these when we are decorating. Maybe we have like a small shoot, and we needed color, we needed to enhance the look of a room. They work best in small settings like a room. But if you are to use them on a stage rather, you see these pots here. You can stack them. You can stack a few of them together and light them up, and they will give you some good embroidery works. Okay. Other lights include these Christmas lights and these twinklers. I call them twinklers because they twinkle. Nothing fancy about it. These ones come handy, especially during Christmas and you need to decorate your stage. If you're on a low budget, I will always suggest you go for these. Whether they are the LEDs or these old Christmas lights, they still work the same. Enhance your stage for different seasons. For example, last Christmas we used these to enhance our stage. Okay? All right. I think that's it for this video. Allow me to sign out now. If there's any question, anything you need clarification about, there's a comment section. Okay? Drop it on the comment section. We can also continue the chats on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. All my handles, I go by the name Hansel Oyango. Just look for me, follow me, drop a comment, even an inbox if there's something you think we need to do that I've not been able to do. Okay. The other thing I'd like for you to do is to subscribe again. Again, let me remind you, subscribe. Share this content with other people that are in your team, or whether they're not in your team, but other friends whom you know do technical stuff. Okay. In the future videos, I'll be hosting some people, some professionals in different areas like audio, lighting, video. I'll just bring them in and host them so that they can give a different perspective and even more knowledge, because some people have specialized in certain areas, and they are able to give deeper knowledge in those areas, and based on not just what they've learned but what they've experienced as well. Okay, if there's anything you want me to do or to do differently, or to a suggestion on how to improve the channel, or a collaboration, if you want a collaboration, just let me know. We will find a way of doing that. All right. Otherwise, I think this has been interesting. It's been a lot of work trying to get the hardware, trying to also do a few background checks, and it's a learning process for me as well. Okay. So for me, and I'd just like to appreciate you once again for dropping by, and also for checking out the content. I also like to appreciate Mr. Mark Kamande, who's been shooting these videos for me. It's not every day you get people to shoot for you. It's not an easy. I do videography, and it's not an easy job. Okay, so I'd like to appreciate him as well in this channel. You can check him out also on Instagram, on Facebook. He's not on YouTube. I think he's on Twitter as well. Okay, check him out. His name is Mark Kamande. I don't know what other names he calls himself. I'll one day bring him here so that he can tell us who he is properly. Otherwise, from me, thank you. You'll be blessed because you came, and I'm out.